So you'll recall Nebuchadnezzar's statue, right? Starts out with a gold head, and then it leads to the 10 toes, which are the final form of the Roman Empire, right? Babylonia was destroyed historically, went away. But at the end of the tribulation week, what city gets destroyed? Mystery Babylon. That is the city that rules over the kings of the earth, right? That is the city destroyed right before Armageddon in Revelation 19. Mystery Babylon. That is the city that rules over the kings of the earth under the Antichrist.
Who is Mystery Babylon?
Revelation 17 tells us it's a city. And it's a city that enriches and rules over the nations of the world. And that city is a harlot that's filled with the blood of the saints and slaves and so forth. And it made the nations of the world that traded with that city rich. And they're going to stand off, at a distance, crying out over the fact that this woman, this city, has been slain, burned with fire in 1 hour of one day. That's Revelation 17. So there are three cities that Christians typically look at historically as potentially that city. They usually start with Rome, the city on seven hills, in the Roman Catholic Church. And it's likely, as I point out in all editions of the Antichrist and Cup of Tea, that the final Pope of Rome, whomever that is, will be the false prophet. Okay? There's imagery, in other words, that relates to the second beast of Revelation 13 in connection with the papacy and ancient Egypt that suggests that the false prophet will come from Rome. I address that in the Antichrist and Cup of Tea. I don't spend a lot of time on it, but it's addressed there. And I don't spend a ton of time on it because a lot of people already think that the Pope could be the false prophet, right? Mm-hmm. So there's that. And a lot of Christians have thought that, Rome was Antichrist to begin with, probably the harlot church. But in reality, this woman, this Mystery Babylon, involves all the nations, not just Roman Catholicism or an apostate church. It's bigger than that. So Rome, one suggestion. Another has been London, the seat of the modern banking institution, starting with the Bank of England. All that sits beneath the British monarchy and Prince Charles. The whole modern banking system sits beneath the British monarchy. So, for example, we think of the Federal Reserve, right? And a lot of people think that's a government entity because the word federal is in there. Right. But really, it's this private international banking institution. And guess who heads that? The British monarchy does.
So interesting. Wow.
And the Bank of England under the monarchy. So most people who know that the Federal Reserve is a group of international banksters don't realize that it's actually under the British monarchy. Always has been. So there's that. So people look at London, and there's this square mile, the inner city of London, that's just called the city, which is the heart of the modern capitalist system globally, except for New York, where the stock exchange is, which arguably is even bigger today. Well, the United Nations is in New York, right? The stock exchange, the major one of the world, is in New York, stock exchanges, and indices, the major ones, the biggest ones, besides the London Stock Exchange. And then on top of that, there's this thing called the Statue of Liberty. And the Statue of Liberty was originally the goddess of Babylon. That's what it was from the beginning.
I mean, I had heard that it was like the face of Baal.
Well, no, it's the goddess of Babylon. And the French created it to be that, and they renamed it so that the United States would accept it.
Wow.
They knew the United States would not take it because we were a religious or Christian people. And seeing that called the goddess of Babylon, there's no way we'd accept it. So they renamed it the Statue of Liberty. Because, hey, this goddess is associated with liberty, just like Lucifer over that tower, the woman riding the beast.
Yeah, false freedom.
Yeah. And if you go into the Statue of Liberty and you find the literature on its history, inside of it at the top, there were, and there probably still are, brochures, pamphlets, etc., giving the history that it was the goddess of Babylon before it was renamed the Statue of Liberty.
Wow. Wow.
So that's a good argument for New York.
Okay, so then you see the city of Babylon.
Yeah, but mystery means hidden, right? It's not the original city of Babylon of history in Iraq, which Saddam Hussein was rebuilding, though there's that. And instead, this is a hidden Babylon, this city. In other words, it's there, but it's not obvious to most people. It should be obvious because how many cities, enrich the world? And how many cities are there that trade with the whole world? And how many cities are there that would give grief to the whole world if it were destroyed? Right? Not many. So, and in our modern context, if people really thought it through, most would say New York or Rome or London. I'll say you can make good arguments for all three, but the fact that the Statue of Liberty is there in New York, along with the United Nations, in combination with everything else we've talked about, it seems most likely that we're talking about New York City. So again, I know people are wild. Again, get my material. There'll be a lot of books coming in the next few years. Right now, you can pre-order the second edition of the Antichrist and a Cup of Tea. Be out in a few months, been worked on for a decade and a half almost now. Then the North Korea, Iran, and the Coming World War, Behold a Red Horse book is already out. You can get that now. And it gives some pretty incredible background and history to North and South Korea. For example, how many people know that downtown Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, was called the Jerusalem of the East?
I had no
before
idea.
Before the communists took over, it was the center of Christianity for Asia.
Wow.
Yeah. Kim Jong-un's own family, his father, and then his grandparents before that, you go a little bit further back, they were Christians. And they completely apostatized their children and gave us what we see today, this horribly wicked nation, North Korea. But there's a lot of history there with North and South Korea. Really interesting things. And South Korea tying into modern Israel also. So you'll find that in the North Korea book is some of the background, not just military analysis, but all that background leading us to where we are today. So there's that book. And then all these other books that I've mentioned, briefly touched on, as well as some others. I mean, I'm going to have 30, probably realistically closer to 40 books out in short order, most worked on for more than a decade. So folks, these aren't the kind of fluff you see from a lot of authors. They're all serious works in their own right, and they address every single key question that mankind has.
Well, Tim. Okay. And again, his website is prophecyhouse.com, and he has all those materials on there. And it's just, you have done the most incredible, extensive research, and I am absolutely blown away. And you'll be blown away too when you start. I mean, you're probably blown away just by everything you've heard, but can you imagine all the research behind it and even way more details? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janie. It's been a pleasure.